Hello everyone, and today we are having with us Mr.Soumitra Poddar, and I am really very joyful today. Just not because we are hosting this show, but I am personally and our company Thinking in Lab is very much indebted to Soumitra sir, and we have worked closely for different projects in SARS Lab. We have collaborated to create the Thinking in Lab Innovation and Research Center in SARS facility. With collaboration with strategic services, and we are doing great work over there. And even it's not like that because the profile of Soumitra sir is very higher than entrepreneurs like us, but still I have seen sir to work very closely with us, giving us inputs, how to really chalk out things, how to really organize things, how to deliver projects in stipulated time, how to code things. So I learn a lot about from sir, because it's not like sir is coming once in a blue moon to the lab. Every day, whenever sir get a time, sir come to the lab, gives us input, how to formulate the legal stuff, how to do the financing stuff. So we are absolutely indebted to sir, and I am hopeful that all the entrepreneurs and innovators who is watching today's show, they will really get absolutely fantastic inputs about their business, how to scale up the business. So the most important part of Soumitra sir is sir has a working experience of big MNCs as well as startups like Thinking in Lab. So sir can give you a proper guidance how we can transform a startup into a big corporate, and what are the step-by-step procedures of it. So I am just going to introduce sir and what are the incredible credentials sir has already been done. So he is certified as independent director by the Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs under MCA. 28 years of experience in the field of corporate governance, investment banking, digital transformation, projects implementation, marketing analytics, digital solutions, cyber deployment, CRP implementation, and global transition services. Has 20 years of experience with PwC, IBM, including handling independently complex engagements covering all phases of project implementation. Has global transformation experience, having worked with worldwide clients like SAIL, BP, Statoil, Sony Pictures. Has developed models and frameworks, digital solutions, including social analytics, supply chain and marketing solutions, 5 full life cycle design and implementation of SAP projects, including 2 global templates and rollout. DP delivered the SAP HR global template rollout and application support program, including setup of testing competency, build team 150 FT team and support across 50 countries. Global service transition lead based in UK, handling complex migration for over 25 countries and over 12,000 employees, including Germany rollout. Developing solutions in the areas of connected systems, hardware software integration with a primary focus on robotics, artificial intelligence in the industrial and consumer industry. Soumitra sir is one of the distinguished alumni of Vinod Gupta School of Management, IIT Kharagpur. He graduated from the institute in the year of 1995 after achieving his specialization in finance and information systems. Before coming to VG, he worked with Mastech Limited as a consultant and get a good technical exposure of the industry. In the year 1997, he moved to PricewaterhouseCoopers and worked there for 5 years as a senior consultant. Later in 2002, he joined IBM with his managerial acumen. Today, he has reached the level of delivery project executive. His entrepreneur approach led him to launch his own advisory consulting firm, that is strategy consulting. And so this is a huge achievement and huge portfolio of sir. And thank you so much, sir, for giving us that 1 hour. That is very much crucial to all the viewers. And thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
and it's very
thank you, Arijit.
Yeah.
For the great explanation. I don't know how much the users kind of understood about it. Yeah, but basically my experience is that I'm from IIT Kharagpur, and about 20 years I've been with IBM and PwC, more in the technology consulting part of it. And I always had a spirit to do something on my own. So basically I built up a development lab, and that's what Arijit was referring to. Think Again Lab is closely working in the area of AI, robotics, and they've done a good job because a number of patents have been filed from my lab, and I'm very proud of it, that they've been working there and doing such good things across the technology space. And so I'm pursuing a kind of an entrepreneur journey. So I would be glad to kind of share my experiences and talk a bit about it. Thank you, Arijit.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. So as because it's a talk show, so we have to start with a question. So first question that is very relevant to the situations we are right now going through. So what is the entrepreneurship landscape around the pan India during this post COVID-19 situation, or still it's there, it's not post. So what is the entrepreneurship landscape? Which are the domains or which kind of companies are really booming right now? Because it's not like every company is going downward. Maybe few companies are few sectors are going downward, but there are few sectors which are really emerging during this situation. So what is the overview of this landscape in India?
So if I look at it in two kind of buckets, the first bucket could be prior to the COVID disruption. That means if I look at it, say up to 2019, in terms of entrepreneurship, there were big companies, right? And a lot of employees were there. A lot of people were working under various domains. And some of them had started their entrepreneurship journey, and the startup ecosystem was being developed, very vibrant in some cities like, say, Bangalore, Delhi, and Calcutta was also coming up. But what has happened is after 2020, say post February, March, things have taken kind of a dramatic turn in terms of the survival. Right? So companies were kind of survive. They're looking at kind of what is going on. I mean, with the lockdown, which is there, not only in India but worldwide, there was a great kind of an impact. So people were kind of stunned in the months of April and May and June, trying to just reorganize themselves. And as a result, they were also trying to understand what is efficiency, right? So, how to look at employees. There was a big concept of work from home, which is a kind of a digital transformation for a lot of companies, because some companies were not exposed to people working on the internet outside their home and delivering kind of projects, programs of work, etc. So what happened was, in terms of the employee part of it, there was a lot of changes in terms of that employees had to be on their own, even if it is working from home, had to deliver kind of products, subjects, the time frame, and had to be kind of independently thinking about how to give value add, right, from the employer. I mean, how to think about how to get give them the benefits. So that is one. Second is there was a lot of change because some people lost their jobs, and as Arijit was trying to say, there are various industries which got impacted. So if I look at the parts which were not impacted, things like e-commerce was not impacted, right? So the people were hiring after May for the delivery, because people were wanting to go online and take up products and things like that. So e-commerce was not impacted. Industries really impacted were the hotels, the hospitality, the travel. They went through a big gyration. A lot of employees had a tough time trying to keep up with their jobs because the revenues were not there of the companies. So, firstly, I feel we have to kind of think, our attitudes need to kind of change, where we kind of need to think that how can we provide some value adds. If it is an employer, we have to provide a value add, which is over and above the basic expectation. Second is that there are lots of opportunities which are there, and the freelancer spirit has really come up in a very big way. In fact, current statistics say that after US, India is the biggest pool of freelancers. Why?
Yeah.
Because we have got a very young population, number one. We have got a very strong technical workforce, number two. Number three is we've got an English speaking workforce which can analyze, understand, and provide a lot of good stuff which we've seen through the IT journey. And myself being in this IT journey from 1989, I have seen how we have become, not only in India, we have started exporting our services. I've lived and worked in Europe and in the US. I've seen how we competed and we thought like the other consultants. So we have become world class, right? People have recognized that the value which we provide at the cost, we have become world class. So there is a lot of opportunities post COVID to take up certain work independently, think like an entrepreneur, and start building the work products and make it blossom. So it can be providing services to a small and medium sector enterprise. It can be providing value adds to others as a support system. So like that, whatever is your specialization, is your idea. So this entrepreneur journey is, I think, very relevant in today's day and age and can be taken forward.
That's incredible insights about the current ecosystem, and that's really helpful for other people to understand which sector is really booming and how they can get into that stuff. So, question is related to your experience with working with both kind of organizations, startup and a big organization. So there must be some differences over there, which are good, which are bad, and which needs changed, or which kind of mindset an entrepreneur should have so that they can convert their small startup into a bigger organizations and all those stuff. So what do you want to say about that?
Sure. So I think if I look at my journey, I started my career with Pricewaterhouse, and that was a small firm at that time. And then we became PwC, the management consulting part of it. And then we became IBM when there was a takeover in 2002. So if I see the three journeys from a small, medium, and then a big company, it is very different, because a small company means it's a bit unstructured, right? So people know each other. We can get projects, we discuss the projects, and we deliver. But with big companies, what happens is that you become more structured in terms of what to deliver, what is your methodology, how do you deliver, what is the project plan, who are the people. It's more kind of tightly bound, etc. So there is obviously merits around that, because being structured helps you to achieve your desired objectives in a very streamlined fashion. And that's what I try to tell Arijit, is that you need a project plan. How do you break it up into phases, right? What is a design phase? What is a build phase? How do you test it, and how do you deploy it? So in big companies, what happens is that, and that's been my experience also, it is more of an impersonal space you're in, number one. And number two is that you are given certain areas of work which you need to focus, specialize, and do. So even if it is a young trainee who is joining, they will be given a particular domain. For example, testing being a domain, right? So you join an organization, and if you are put into testing, you only look at the testing part of it. But having said that, if you've got the a wider mindset, you look at the other areas, you look at the bigger picture around testing. What is the benefits? What is the objective? What are the tools? How to go about it? How to build my skills, etc. So that is one part of it. Just coming back to the entrepreneurial mindset, and I think that's a very important question, which Arijit has asked. So I think that is a very key for kind of survival or success. So what can be a parameter of a good entrepreneurial mindset? I think one is the discipline part of it. We have to be very disciplined to kind of achieve a goal. I know, being in college, we stay up nights and try to do something in the last minute and try to achieve it. But in companies, it works differently. And I think there's a lot of discipline and rigor which needs to be there. Discipline in terms of, timeliness, in terms of doing your office work, doing your other work, like in the Western world, they are very disciplined. They've got time limits. They start on time, they end on time, because there is a value to time. So we have to recognize the value of time. Right? You have to be disciplined. The second is taking ownership of your work. You have to take ownership. For example, Arijit is running a firm called Think Again Labs, and he has got a team of people. So when he delegates work to that particular team member or a team lead, he or she needs to take ownership of it, saying that, okay, I understand what needs to be delivered and I will deliver within this time frame. Because Arijit is doing many more other things and there is a lot of dependency. If there is a failure coming up, the team member needs to call it out, saying that, you know what, I'm facing a risk, I'm facing an issue. How do I go about it? But if I keep quiet and if I don't talk about it, if I let those milestones and deadline pass, then I'm heading towards failure. And if you have a customer who has trusted you, and if there is failure there, that is the worst thing which can happen. So what I'm trying to say is that you need to take a lot of ownership of your work, and you need to kind of think about value adds. What is the value add? That means beyond the normal stuff, how else can I contribute to provide a value to my clients, to the organization, to something which I'm building? So we have to think like that to progress, right, and to develop. That is my initial thoughts.
Fantastic. So I hope all the startup entrepreneurs really got certain inputs point they can really apply in their own business. So in case of startups have very diversified skill force. Like in case of bigger organizations, there is a proper procedure of recruiting people, and they have enough funding to recruit experienced people. But when we are starting up with a startup, mostly young guys are there because it's we don't have that much funding to get experienced people on board. It takes time. In later phases we have to do it, but those people who are starting up with the startup thing, this entrepreneurship thing, they are very lacking in experience because there are not experienced people in their team. So how they can cope up with this particular situation, how they can really collaborate with this kind of people who have experience, how they can reach them, or how they can upgrade themselves to just implement the experienced stuff in their particular business.
Right. So one is in terms of hiring. So obviously, if you have a big project or if there is a pipeline of projects, and I've seen it in my lab, how do we get the right people to do the right job and have a cultural fit also, right? There are many components because you need a right fit to be there with you for a long term to be a bit successful in your projects. So one of it is that you try and give a bit of internship to these aspiring candidates and try to make a judgment and onboard them, see them the nature, give them the feedback. Some of it may be positively taken, some of it may not be positively taken. So this is one part of it. The second part is in terms of experience. Now, I think the mentorship approach can be a good way to engage with seniors and then to see how to collaborate with them, right? So there is a lot of, in fact, my colleagues, our firm, etc. We've got a lot of senior people, right? Because in my leadership team, for example, there is a 20-year-old Kunal is there who is about 20 years. He's the ex-CFO of Hershey's. We've got Ranjiv Chit, who is an ex-CMO of Samsung. So, and we are willing to give mentorship to the young startups to show them the path, right? So that kind of collaborations, I think one can engage with to take things forward from an experience perspective. How can those points be taken? And I think there's a bit of give and take. You have to give something and take it, because unless you do that, you are not serious about it. So again, so you have to counterbalance it and and take it.
Fantastic, sir. So So now through mentorship, so mentorship is really a very good way of getting experienced people on board. Or mentorship is one thing, creating a board of advisors is another thing that I personally follow, that really works very good, because we entrepreneurs are really less experienced, more enthusiastic. But enthusiasm is always better to be under certain observations and certain experienced frameworks. Otherwise, enthusiasm can become very dangerous to the clients, the outer world, right? So through this mentorship, through advisor panel, it really helped me to learn a lot, as well as cope up with all the problems, all the shortcomings that are going to become. Because you guys, you Avelu sir, all these kind of mentors are already experienced whatever we are going to face. Maybe we are experiencing one two new problems. So when we are really going in this mentorship approach, that really works. And thank you so much for that. That's a wonderful insight. So my next question is, how startups should modify or organize themselves so that they can get a funding. So right now, every people are having a mindset that even if I am creating a visiting card or opening a website and being a CEO of a company, people are just waiting with their money to fund my company. But that really don't happens. So that's a very wrong mindset about funding. So what can be the approach of a founder, and what kind of organizational rule there should be in an organization so that they can eligible for data funding?
So I think the first basic cardinal principle is acquisition of customers. So your whatever idea you have, you can pilot it, you can do some trial runs, but you need to acquire customers who will pay you money, and that is the proof of the pudding. So whenever, and we work with a lot of angel fund investment houses, with some venture capital funded houses. So basically they will see your sales record. So who are your customers? Are they paying you? What has been a year-on-year growth? Are you growing up, or is it kind of stable? What is your product? What is the future of that? Having said that, digital has got a huge future. If we look at a company which recently went, he's a great entrepreneur, and the name of the company is called Happiest Minds, right? This has been done by Ashok Sutta, who is an ex-Wipro person, went on to form Mindtree, and then went on to form another company called Happiest Minds. And that IPO took place about a couple of months back. So which works purely on information technology, more focused on digital, on analytics, on cloud, migrations, etc. So very new age company. And he opened his stock at 160. He tried to get his pricing done, but it opened double. So what I'm trying to say is that for young companies, you need to have a kind of a roadmap of your products, number one. Number two, have a kind of a business plan also. A business plan basically means that what are your budgets? So we are starting 1st April 2021, right, which is a new financial year. So starting from October, November, December, you should think that if I have got a turnover of say 20 lakhs this year, in the next year, what should it be? And the kind of the leaders or the kind of founders or the founding members should agree and say, okay, based on this year's experience, we should be able to do a 35 lakhs next year, and then break it down into quarters, and then see whether you're actually having a plan versus actual, right? So if you don't have that, you are going to go year on year, you will be going blinded. I mean, you do not have your lines of business defined. You do not have a plan defined, which is called annual business plan. And from an actual perspective, you don't know where you are. So you should have a basic annual business plan, break it up into quarters, measure it. And the best way to measure is through a P&L and balance sheet. What you are achieving, are you achieving or not? And take stock, do a lessons learned. Why am I not achieving it? What are the problems? take some help of outsiders. If they're professionals, get some guidance, try to be on track. Because sometimes, and I tell Arijit also that you may be going out of track, but you don't realize it yourself. But I can see it because I'm seeing it from an outsider in perspective.
Exactly. So that's why that's the most important part of having advisors on board, like experienced people like you, that you guys can understand, because we are reaching from point to A to B, but you are standing on the Z point, and you know what are the pathways, and if we are diverting from the pathway, you can just guide us that no, there's not the B is not there, B is here, because I have already walked that pathway, and that's really a very insightful answer. So we are having a question from our audience. I'm just putting that question on the screen. Sir, it is necessary to work in a company to gain knowledge and experience before starting our own company. It's a very dicey question, right?
It's a very tricky question, yeah. So basically, my background is I've done my MBA from VT Som, and I actually learned on the job. So when I joined the company, I could understand what are the financial processes, and when I started implementing for a client called Haldia Petrochemicals, I could understand how it really works. I mean, obviously, having knowledge of a company previously, the experience will help. But having said that, I mean, if you were to start and have a brilliant point which is addressing a customer pain point, I mean, you could always take the journey and take it forward. So there are these case studies, right? So Apple has got a case study in which the founder he dropped out of college, right? Also a few others, and then they became one of the most brilliant companies, right? Apple's now company is over $1 trillion, which is more than any combined many countries together. So having said that, so if you've got a really good idea which is currently addressing a customer pain point, I think it's worth it to take the plunge. Yeah.
Exactly. So if see, when from my personal experience, so it's not like you have to always go for job and being an employee over there. So you can do internships in different companies, get knowledge from there, and most importantly, it's not like we human beings can acquire any kind of knowledge, right? So we have our own traits, own particular segment, which kind of knowledge we can acquire, and the most essential thing for being an entrepreneur is finding complementary skills. So if you don't have knowledge or experience in certain domain, if you want to start entrepreneurship in that domain, you have to find complementary people who have those knowledges and really want to work with you. That is also one procedure that is a little bit faster procedure, because acquiring a knowledge really requires a time, right? So you can go for internship and get some knowledge and start, but still you cannot get all the knowledge to the entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship don't comes with any manual. So when you start, you will start realizing there are so many sectors, so many things that one person cannot get all the knowledge. So it's always a team, and the most important thing before getting knowledge, even you have to have a team. If you don't have the team, you're not going to able to do anything, right? Maybe there are some solopreneur and all those stuff, but I am not a solopreneur, so I cannot talk about them. So if you really want to do entrepreneurship like I have done, or many of my friends have done, you have to find a team and like-minded people. That's really very important. Thank you so
what
much.
Arijit is talking about is actually he's talking about an ecosystem, and
Yeah.
I am also a strong propounder of ecosystem, because even with my experience, I do not know so many things. But if I can partner with some people, and I talked about give and take, right? So if I can partner, build up an ecosystem, and I think Avelo also talks a lot about ecosystem.
Yeah.
So what happens is that combined, you can take it forward. I think that's that's the right way to right spirit.
So there is a term for this thing as well. Collaborate economy is a term for it. So it's always there. So if you cannot collaborate, it's very difficult to do some bigger things. So that's why I personally think team-based activities, teamwork, it should be a subject in school itself, because from the school, the education system is always teaching us learn from your own self, do the examination for your own self, do the homework for your own self, but where is teamwork? And if they are not learning teamwork, it's very difficult to sustain. Maybe you're not becoming an entrepreneur, you are getting into a company, but even if there you need this team skill and team collaboration spirit, that's really helpful, I think. Yeah. So comes to the next point. So what is the importance of innovation in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so basically, if I look at what is innovation, so one thought may be that innovation is thinking about it differently to do it more efficiently, right? So some people are doing it differently. If I can do it more efficiently, it is a more innovative idea, right? And there is a lot of especially in the technology world, right? So there is a lot of startups which are there, which have solved that, right? So innovation could be that, and it's very applicable for corporates, right? I mentioned about joining a corporate, and you're kind of strong bound in. You go over there at 9 o'clock. You're given a task. You come out at 5 o'clock, and then you just think that what have you done? So that is a very stringent way of looking at it. So one has to think about it very differently from an end-to-end perspective, right? So you have to think about a start. If I'm doing a testing, what is the objective of it? I'm trying to produce a failure in production environment, right? And then if I'm trying to reduce that failure, how important is data? So you have to think beyond what is given to you, and that's how you excel, that's how you shine out. So if you can come up with, say, 5 different things which your team leaders also not thought about, obviously you will be recognized, and that is innovation, because you're thinking beyond your regular work pattern. You're going out of the box, you're doing some research, trying to come up with something new, something innovative, and giving it back. So according to me, that is innovation.
Absolutely, sir. That's really that is the innovation. So many people has this kind of mindset, like innovation is only product development, but it's not really. So all the processes in our organization can be implemented with innovation. So we can implement innovation in marketing, we can implement innovation in sales. So innovation is not a particular thing related to product development. It's pre-product development, post-product development. All the operational processes can be innovated in the way so that can fit into the system in a smart way. So that's what I personally think about innovation. So next thing is, sir, so starting a startup is very great, but how to keep the team spirit throughout the journey? Because startup is a sinusoidal wave. In sometimes we are in up, and sometimes we are in down. So it's very difficult to keep the wheel of all the people in a same synergy throughout the process. So what can be your tips on that thing, so that we can keep the team spirit throughout the process in the same thing, or at least in synergy, so that we can work together?
Yeah, so startup, I think the key point of it, what Arijit is trying to say, is sustenance, right? How do I sustain it? So I think one of the easiest way to do that is that whoever is associated with your startup has to feel he or she is kind of co-owning it. So that means, what I mean is that if I've got 20 employees as an example, and we are not getting projects this quarter, so we as 20 people should think that, why have we not got projects? And take ownership of it, saying that, okay, if we do not get projects, if we do not get revenue, we do not get paid. So that means we are having the same mindset, same ethos, same kind of level of energy. That means what? If I am a shareholder of the company, I own the company, right? There is a concept of shareholding patterns. So I'm equally responsible. So if that spirit is given, then I think the vibrancy will be there. Okay, then I'll get vibrant that, if I don't work hard, I will not get rewarded. So something like that. So that's how to keep a bit of the momentum kind of going. Obviously, there are aspects of how to keep yourselves motivated. I think one of the ways in which you can do a bit of motivation is to do something beyond your ordinary work. So it means as simple things like playing a football game during the month of the football season. So just imagine if it's raining and if we just get a football and go to the Robindra Sarovar station grounds and play a match. Supposing there are 20 people or 15 people, just go there and play a game of football. So we erase up all our kind of tensions, right? Or we go for a bicycle ride in the morning, 6 to 9, we plan a bicycle ride. So we are talking about teamwork. That's how you develop teamwork. That's how you feel that, okay, we are bonded together. So those are the things which we need to do together, etc., etc., to feel that you are there, keeping in mind obviously that sustenance is important. And I know that the financially also you need to get the projects, get the income, so that to become more motivated and you get together.
Absolutely, sir. These are really very, the ownership part is very important, because it's not possible for one. So we always look for the founder or the CEO or this kind of. So everybody has a face, but it's not like the face is doing all the things. So every individual person has their own capabilities and own responsibility towards the organization, especially the founding team or the upper management team. Now if the founder is unable to get projects or unable to do certain things at certain period of time, because it's not like all human beings have their own ups and falls, right? So if other people are not supporting and taking the ownerships and taking the charges during that period, so that's not a teamwork. And without a teamwork, no company can sustain, because a company cannot have the J card for the lifelong. So that's really very interesting point. And about playing in the Robindra Sarovar Lake, so we are due with that plan for last 1 year. So I promise after this pandemic, we will organize the EPL Entrepreneurs Premier League, and we will just play over there with other startups and all those people. I hope we can organize that stuff very soon. So next thing is, sir, many people asked me, so as because people have a mindset of getting funding to start a startup. So many people ask me, sir, if I start a startup in product domain or service domain, because I want to get funded, so which kind of startup get funded? So I know it's a very vague question, but still, what do you think, that is product or service based domain? Is there any criteria like that?
Yeah, so I think more easy to get funding typically in a product-based domain. So obviously, when you're starting up in the startup entrepreneur ecosystem, the big venture capital, medium venture capital will not look at you. So there is a bit of a network which is called a kind of an angel network. So the angel network typically gives seed funding. They give seed funding and they take up a bit of stake in the company, and that is based, and that is easier to get if it is product based. If it is services based, they will look at the scalability factor. So you have to justify how do you scale up, right? So if you are 100 today, investors want to see 1,000. When will you go to 10 times, 10x? It's called 10x. So if you can explain that, I am 100 today, I will go to 1,000 by 2 years, and this is how I will do it. If you can show that X percentage of growth, and that is easier done through a product, a compelling product. For example, in the pandemic, I know a few edtech startups, right? Education technology startups who got funded. So because that was the flavor, because the schools got closed, colleges got closed, people wanted to kind of gain education, which was not so much earlier. So that's how it needs to be analyzed.
Absolutely, sir. So that's really very insightful answer. So how people can find good co-founders for their company? What is the process? What are the ways? Maybe there are not that much distinct way that they go and find like that, but there must be some case studies, use case studies that in this way people can find their co-founders or something like that.
Right, I think that's a very good question, really good question. So, according to me, if you have a co-founder, if you have a team, it is easier to kind of uh, to grow, because for one person to develop, do all the activities, right? There's a marketing activity, there's a sales activity, there's a finance activity, there's an HR activity, there's an operations activity, right? It is very difficult. So obviously you need a co-founder. Now, having said that, um, and that is a lot of there's a lot of failure case studies because you not got the right co-founder. So the co-founder has to be very compatible with you, right? Compatible in terms of your behaviors, in terms of your, supposing I am very ethical in my behavior. And if I get a co-founder who is not so, and I discover that later, obviously there will be a conflict and I would have wasted a lot of time. So basically finding a co-founder is very important. Compatible co-founder is important. Now, how do you go about it? So you should have the same passion, right? So if I've got a product, the co-founder should be equally interested in developing and scaling up the product as I am. Uh, if he's not that passionate, then there may be problems later on. So basically, you need to be interactive in networks, and then try to see whether you can get a co-founder. But having said that, you also need to be very. If you have a startup, you need to acquire your customers, right? And if you acquire customers, you need to retain your customers. So it's not an easy journey, but I think having co-founders, and obviously there are a lot of criterias, it is very important for a startup to kind of scale up. Yeah. So also when funding comes, if you've got a good team is what they look at. It's one of the parameters.
Yeah.
That means a good guy who is looking into finance, a good guy who's looking into the technology, a good leader, right? The good leader's reputation, etc. So,
Fantastic. Fantastic. So I hope that will be really helpful for people, because many startups just suffer because of not having good co-founders or good people in the team. Maybe individually they are based on in their fields, but when these two things or two people or three people work together, there should be a resonance frequency, and which is in positive way, not in negative way, and that's really very relatable, very interesting. So we have another question from the audience. All the teammates in a startup should feel that they are working for their own startup, although they are interns in that startup. So how can I build this kind of mindset in the team and increase output?
um, see, interns typically will come in for a specific period of time. So if I'm an engineering student and if I've got my summer off, so April to June, I may be there, right? So you are evaluating the intern is evaluating you. Now, if you like the intern, you could give him some, it could be a pre-placement offer. It's called a PPO, and obviously, if he accepts the offer, means he's very keen to join you. Now, what are the? How do you bring him to the same pitch? Because you're working with him for 3 months, right? So that's when you gauge, right? His kind of desire for doing work, his desire for doing the characteristics which you like, or if you don't like it, obviously. So that's how you need to build it up. And you do some team events. For example, I'm a very strong propounder of sharing of knowledge, sharing of assets. So earlier, what I used to do is every Friday, I used to ask one of my team members to kind of talk on a subject, and there is to be a calendar defined, right? So what happens is that that person knows, okay, next month Friday I need to talk on this particular subject, and I need to do research. Number one. Number two is that I need to talk in front of an audience. Some people do not know how to communicate. It was only in IIT when I went and I started doing my MBA course that I learned the powers of presentation. Before that, I could not. I was there. I was doing it, but not that effectively. So what happens is that the intern, if you give the intern to present and you listen to him or her, that means the intern is also seeing this is a knowledge-driven organization. I am getting value by staying here. I'm learning things day on day. So I also want to be a part of it. Okay, I may sacrifice a bit of my salary, but at least from a long-term part of it. So you need to devise, and this is called innovation actually. So don't just do only work, work, work. They should be happy. And I talked about happiest minds, right? As a company which went from an entrepreneur to an IPO, you should read that story. So that's how you need to cultivate.
That's great, sir. We are having another question from the audience. Sir, is it possible to open up a company for a guy who is in the first year in college and slowly learning about a certain subject, or he have learned the whole subject before doing that, if the subject is robotics? In simple manner, the question is whether I should get all the knowledge of a domain and start a startup, or I should start a startup and then get the knowledge in the process.
Yeah, so basically what I said earlier is that you have to look at a customer pain point. Now, as of today, if I look at robotics, I know about 10 Indian companies. I know of a company in Pune which is making rapid strides. Now, what do you want to do? Do you want to do something unique in robotics, which has not been done earlier? Or do you want to do something in robotics which has already been done? So I have a like for doing robotics. It's fine. I have an interest. I have a passion. I dream about doing robotics, creating a robot. It's okay. But how will it solve a customer problem, right? So in COVID, you may say that in healthcare domain. So I'm now talking about industry. So within industry, I'm talking about a robot which will do something which will benefit a hospital chain. Now, then you need to do research. Has this robot already been established in India? What is the cost price? Then you look at the functional part of it, the pricing part of it. And then if you feel that there is a gap, then you start thinking about doing it as a company. I think that will be the response. So as discussed earlier, that you don't need to know the whole subject to form your own company. But we discussed about other parameters also.
Yeah. So there is a term called analysis paralysis. So if you are trying to get all the things, you are not even going to start your startup in 70 years of age, because there is no end of knowledge, specifically in technology domain. Every day new things, new technologies are coming in. And if you are thinking that you will learn the robot, you will build the product, you will build the product, that's not going to happen. So maybe you are having an overview knowledge of robotics, how things works, how sensors works and all stuff. But when the time grows, when you open up a startup, maybe after 1-2 years, you will not get the time to get into the product development, because there is so many other works. You need to do the collaboration, you need to find co-founders, you need to find funding. So it's always better to have a overview knowledge, get people who really want to work in that particular technology for longer period of time as a technologist, and then go with them and open the startup. So that's how I have also done it. So that's a suggestion you can take.
So I've got one point here, and just on the robotics piece of it. So Arijit and his team, Think Again Lab, has produced the first food butler robot, last Pujos, and it originated from my lab. So he is one step ahead. So if you're talking about robotics, you should pick up the phone or take some time from Arijit, find out from a domain perspective, where is the industry? What is it doing? What are the trends? And then Arijit may tell you, you know what, I'm unable to strike this. I'm unable to find out a climbing robot. Okay. I've got a use case. Somebody's wanting me to do that. Why don't you think about it? That is the value add I'm talking about.
Absolutely, absolutely, sir. So that's how the ecosystem really works, right? So it's not like 10 years old company can build any kind of robots, right? So there are knowledge gaps which you can fulfill. When you're talking about opening a robotics company, so don't feel like opening a robotics company. Try to find out the problem statement. Now, if robotics is required to solve that problem statement, then use the robotics. So don't open a robotics company. Open a company which solve problem with robotics. That should be the approach, and in that way you can understand that you are not capable of building products your own self, because whenever you're getting into complex problem, real life problem for which people really want to pay, it's not possible for one person to build the robot. So many people say that Arijit Hajra build a robot, but I am not build the robot by myself. I was in the team, I guided the team, I have given them the resources and all those stuff. But there are people, Dipon, there is Shayandeep, there is Naina, there is so many other people who come together and give their own resources to build the robot, right? But what happens, as because I am a good speaker and I can communicate good and I can let people understand things in a very easier manner, that's why people know about me as a face of the Thinking Lab. But it's not like that I am the all in all and I can do everything. That's not the way, that's not how things work really. Sir, we are absolutely at the end of the show. We are having like 8 to 9 minutes. So as because this talk show is about hackathon, the NASA Space Up Challenge that we are doing for last 2 years. Last year, the winner was from Thinking Lab, and he's right now working with us. And you have also seen him working in your lab as well. This year as well, he's participating as a participant, right? Even after winning the contest, he's again participating with some fabulous products, and already the nationals has been started from today. So what do you think? What is the aspect? What is the importance of this kind of hackathon to encourage and endorse and entrepreneurship and innovations in students?
Yeah, I think India's got tremendous talent, and especially Bengal, and especially the brains around here. On the quantitative side, right? Mathematics, statistics, science, we have got great brains, right? So now we need to come out of our shells and produce stuff which is ready for which we can use, which we should commercialize for the industry, right? So that it gets prominence. It's not only doing research and just stopping there. So number one, that is point number one. Point number two, government is giving a lot of importance, lot of benefits, lot of things to entrepreneurship. Why? Because of the job situation. Yeah, big companies are floundering, big companies are not existing anymore. Sometimes they're running amok. So it's a great time now to come up with your own ideas and to take it forward. We have all heard of the Atmanirbhar program. So what the government is saying is that be self-dependent, create something, earn something for yourself. Do not, you work for somebody, but be on your own, think on your own, and go forward. So that is a great program, the Atmanirbhar program. Government is encouraging the startups. There's a huge MSME setup being done. Manufacturing is looked upon in a very big way. We want to kind of overcome that China impact, right? The China goods had flooded at. We stopped that at the right time. So I feel going forward, there is a lot of opportunities ahead. We need to channelize it, and just take it forward. That should be the approach.
Absolutely, sir. So this is my last question, as because you have a very good expertise in finance domain and project development domain. So when we start up in initial days, it's very difficult to get a accountant or get a CA in our company who is working with our daily operations and something like that. So how initial day startup can maintain their accounts and look into the finance in which particular mindset and which particular frameworks?
Yeah, so I think again I talked about discipline. So even finance is a part of discipline. So
Absolutely.
what I mean to say is that if I incur an expense, I need to drop a voucher. I need to file the voucher. At the end of the month, I need to give it to a shared service provider, which is say an accountant. He will then enter the systems in Tally because you don't want to invest in a Tally system. After every 6 months, 3 months, you get it audited. So what happens is that from your co-founder perspective also, they know that the finance is not being tampered. It is being transparent. And that is a big discipline actually. Many people do not understand it. But I feel it's very important to be doing the rigor, telling that okay, this year, this month, this quarter, these are my financials. This is my in profit. This is my income. This is my expenses, right? And there are lots of shared service providers which do this job at a very nominal fee. So there is a lot of help which is available, and that's the way I think this mentorship and this ecosystem which we talked about, right, can be developed and thought about. So I think it is very important, but it calls for the discipline. It calls for the intent. Am I wanting to do it? Because see, when you're an entrepreneur, the disadvantage is that you don't have a boss. You are your boss. You have to be disciplined. Why? Because the time is in your hands. The boss usually will tell you, oh, what happened? You were supposed to deliver this on Friday. You did not do it. But you have no boss. You have only clients. The client will call you once. The second time you call, the client will throw you out because there is a lot of other options. So
Exactly.
you have to be very competitive. You have to produce your best. You have to be motivated. So those are the disadvantages of an entrepreneur. You don't get regular income. The income is very periodically. But if you perform well, if you do well, you can scale up. You can do it. And we have seen lots of success stories in India. There are lots of failure stories also, but there are lots
Yeah.
of success stories also.
Absolutely, sir. And I want you to just give a one line or two line inspiration to all the participants of NASA Space Up Challenge. And this time we have 11 teams who are mentored by Thinking Lab and went for the nationals. And we are some of the people will go for the global as well because they have incredible projects. Like I was talking about the last year's winner Anirban. This year he has created a whole VR experience of NASA laboratory, right? The laboratory was created 3D in 3D environment, and he has created his own sensors to get a real virtual and virtual augmentation mixed reality experience of that stuff. So there are several others. So there is a mascot of NASA, and there are fabulous projects. So I want you to just give a one or two line of inspiration to them.
Yeah, so I think I'm very I closely understand the NASA Space App Challenge, and I think it's a wonderful forum. And in spite of the pandemic, and in spite of it, you all have used digital means, right, to
Yeah,
reach where you are. So
yeah,
it's a great way. I mean, even you should give your best, fine tune your product, showcase it, do some preparations around it, right? Do some mock runs so that you get geared up, and then you go and present it in the finals and see what the results are. But this journey of taking you from X to Y, that itself is very good. That is point number one. And you fine tune your skills. So if it's a VR experience, and I know Anirban personally, you should take it to the next level, right?
yeah.
You should work with some other founders and see how to kind of commercialize it, how we can take it forward. And this is also calling and saying that there are superb brains, right? My opening statement was that there are superb brains. So as a joint team, we can take it forward.
So
And we
already
should.
like last, yeah. So last year like we have sponsored on everyone's patent under Thinking in Lab. So I have already committed whether he's winning the contest or not. I don't care about it, but I am again going to sponsor from Thinking in Lab, not me. The Thinking in Lab is going to sponsor for his patent this year as well because that's an incredible product. I think if we can just mentor him and give them all the resources, it can become a very great product in domain in gaming industry because gaming industry is a very big emerging industry right now. So we are also take a very good action with his projects and products. So let's hope for the best. And thank you so much, sir, for this 1 hour. I hope many people, many entrepreneurs, not only the participants of NASA Space Up Challenge, but all the viewers, all the innovators, all the entrepreneurs really got insightful things related to their business, entrepreneurship, team forming, and all those stuff. So as we all are into the new normal, so I hope we can organize this kind of sessions more frequently in future about different specific perspective of business, and we can give share the knowledge to the people with you. And thank you so much for joining with us.
Okay, thank you, and all the best. Bye bye.
Yeah. So thank you all the viewers to staying with us and showing so much of love, so much of enthusiasm, commenting in our live show, as well as sending me text and asking me about the next speaker, what kind of topics are coming, and suggesting me different kind of speaker and topics. So I am really indebted to all the people who are really supporting in this way, and all the bigger organizations like Kolkata Ventures, NASCOM, 10,000 startups to supporting us and encouraging us to doing this kind of stuff. So thank you so much for being with us. Bye bye.